Creating an album or an EP can be such a fun experience, and it's a completely different workflow than making singles. And in my opinion, when you're creating an album or an EP, one way to have some cohesiveness between songs is to do things called seamless transitions, where you have one song seamlessly lead into the next. And it's just a really cool way to kind of show your listener that you were thinking of the album as a concept and not just a batch of individual songs. And we've had a lot of questions on this channel in the comments about how do you actually do seamless transitions like that, because it can be hard to really marry two songs together where there's not gaps in the playback, there's not weird mixing level differences. So in this tutorial today, I'm going to show you how to do a seamless transition in an album or in an EP so you can have one song flow right into the next one. So I'm going to show you an example, but before we go into that and before we do all of that, my name is Austin. You're watching Make Pop Music, where we have weekly tutorials on music and music production. If you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out a bunch. Let us know what future videos you want to see in the comments down below. And other than that, after this video, if you want to support our channel and if you want to help us out, head over to our website, makepopmusic.com. We have tons of resources over there for producers. We have sample packs, preset packs, we have MIDI packs, we have a start to finish production course. So head over to makepopmusic.com. We also have a ton of free content over there for you as well. But let's dive into Cubase so I can actually show you how we can get a seamless transition. In this case, it's going to be from an album intro into song number 2. Let's check it out. So just to prove to you that this is completely seamless, I actually have this pulled up on Spotify. So we're going to go from Did I Wake Up in Heaven or Hell right into Montclair, and you're going to see that it legitimately just sounds like one track that plays all the way through. It can be kind of complicated to do that. So I want to show you an example what it sounds like on the actual kind of DSP, not just in my DAW. Now we're into Montclair. So you can see that there's no gaps, there's no clicks and pops, there's no weird pauses. And if you're just making songs that sound like they could go together, but you export them separately, you might run into this issue where, yeah, they're almost cohesive, but they're not quite there. So I'm going to show you my workflow for doing this. Everybody's got a different thing. Some people make an entire album in one actual project. Since I'm doing pop and every single song on an album is different for me, I just can't really have 3,000 different tracks for a 10 or 12 song album. So I do all of mine in separate projects. And then what we do is basically I'll create all the songs that the artist wants to make, and then we'll come up with a track list together. So me and Riley basically said, here are all the songs that I did. Here are the songs that other producers did. What is the track list that makes the most sense? And then when we figure out what's going to come second in the album, we said, okay, we need to have some kind of intro, and we want that intro to be really, really seamless. This is also the kind of phase where I would go ahead and I would start adding other transitions in between songs if that's something that we want to do. So I would say produce the songs all individually, give them each their own intro and outro that makes sense for that song, put the track list together, and then if you find that there are two songs that just kind of naturally go into each other, maybe they share a key, maybe they share a similar tempo, if you can just kind of transition with ambient effects, I think don't force song-to-song transitions, don't force a seamless transition, but if you find opportunity, they're not that difficult to do. So I'm going to show you how I did this one for Did I Wake Up in Heaven or Hell leading into Montclair. So we are in a project right now. You can see that I have this called Riley Montclair New Version Intro. So what I did is we finished Montclair way before we did this intro. And when we did, here is what this master sounded like. This was the album master. It still has a little bit of an intro, but you're going to hear that we have elements that kind of tail over. So you can see that it just comes in right on the one with that nice big like Reese bass, that nice kind of really beautiful little arp. And then that's pretty much it. What we wanted to do is we wanted to have an intro where he could kind of reference all of the song titles. So he wrote a nice little top line that fit everything in. And we decided, okay, we kind of want this to be in a similar key and tempo as Montclair, but we don't want nearly as much going on. So what I did is I actually took the session from Montclair, made a duplicate. So that's what this is, New Version Intro. And then I literally deleted everything. So I deleted all of the actual contents. You can see here that we have so many blank tracks. These were all different files inside of Montclair. What we did keep is like we have a kick, we have some different ambient effects, and then we used a lot of the same synths and basses. And the reason that I wanted to do this in the same project that the actual song was made in is so number one, mixing is really, really similar. Number two, we can use a lot of the same sounds so they easily carry over. And number three, it's just really going to like match texturally and spatially. It can be really hard to match something that I might have done 2 months ago in a completely new project. So a lot of the time when I'm doing intros into another song, what I do is I'll try to mainly focus on the outro of, let's say you're going to have song 5 go into song number 6. Instead of really trying to rework the intro of song number 6, I'm just going to try to work the outro of song number 5 to match it. Because in my opinion, an outro is just kind of a fun little transitional period where an intro has to grab the listener's attention. And if me and the artist have really focused on making that intro fit the song, I don't want to go mess with that too much. We'll have elements that carry over, like I'll show you in a second, but that's the main reason that if you're going to work on seamless transitions, I think work on the outro and then morph that song's outro into the song's intro. I don't think that you should have to go in and completely rework that. So what I would do is I would just open up the session of the outro that you need. So right now, we're just working with Did I Wake Up in Heaven or Hell leading into Montclair. And we have everything here. So all of these keys that happen right here are the same as in Montclair. But what we did is I took away that kind of lead arp and we actually half-time this chord progression. So the chords, the bass, we don't really have any top like sparkly melody. It's just giving us this nice big ambient sound. And you can hear that if we just go right over to the Montclair master that we have just printed out as a 2-track.
When you see me in nails, and I'm dressed with Balenciaga's help.
We're already sitting in the same space because we're just using that Montclair project, made a duplicate, deleted all of the Montclair content, made the content for the intro, and then now we're going to have this seamlessly transition. So we created this as its own entity, and then let me show you why it's so important to use this kind of workflow when you're doing seamless intros, because we actually have this big vocal right here that kind of has a tail that goes straight into Montclair. So let me show you how this actually ends.
Keep the Montclair, keep the Montclair, let I left there.
So now what I've done is now I have basically just let that reverb tail carry over. You can see right here on my master bus automation, I am ending it at 31 bars in. So really the song is going to end like this. And so what I've done is this vocal right here that I have going to what should kind of carry over into Montclair is not routed to my master bus automation. So this is where I have the entire intro going. So the intro would end like that, but I want that vocal to kind of be left over because that's what makes it a seamless transition to me. Without that, it just feels like an intro in the same key and tempo, and it feels like a new song in the same key and tempo. So what I do is I've got everything routed to this master bus automation so I can mix that like its own song, and then I have this lead vocal right here that's just got that big reverb tail going to my monitors out, which is where this goes as well. And then on my monitors out, I literally just have one very, very simple little instance of Pro Q, and it's literally not doing like anything. It's just to make sure that nothing actually clips once we open it. So it's not boosting any gain. There's like no actual gain reduction really happening. It's just to make sure that as we take a mastered file and we pop over one little reverb tail, we're not going to clip that. So then what I do is now I have this portion right here that feels like its own thing, and then I have this portion right here that feels like its own thing, and I need this reverb tail to carry over. So then what I do is I export this entire thing as one big long song. So this is one like 4-minute and 15-second song. And then what I'll do is I'll take that 4-minute and 15-second song and I'll drag it into its own DAW session. So I've got my endpoint and I've got my outpoint set. I'm just going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export, and then I'm just going to say Montclair intro and main song, and then I would bounce this out. So I'll go 44.1 24-bit, I'll hit export, and then once this exports, I should have that 4-minute and 18-second long song. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it in, and I'm going to specifically cut what I want to be track 1 and what I want to be track 2, and then since all of that carries over into one big mastered long song, I can literally just export those as individual little tracks. So now I have a blank session open. I'm just going to take that master print that I just dragged out. if you want, I think it makes it a little bit easier to pop in the tempo of either the song, one of the songs. So, you know, if you're going song 5 into song 6, match the tempo of song 5 or match the tempo of song 6, just so you can have a pretty precise cut. And then I made a mental note that like it's right around measure 31 that we need to look at cutting into 2 separate songs. So now I have just one big long song that's the intro into Montclair. And I'm going to show you right around here what it sounds like. And this is the reason that I'll print it out and then drag it into its own session. So this is a clean session. This is not the Montclair session. This is not the intro session. I just want that big, long master of the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it right here, and I'm going to make that its own little track. One thing that I will say is I suggest just doing the most minuscule of a crossfade, just so there's not a click and a pop, but it'll still be pretty seamless. So let me show you what it sounds like now with that really minuscule crossfade. Let me call this Did I Wake Up in Heaven or Hell? And then we can call this Montclair, because now this is that song and this is that song. So let's hear it. And so you can hear that even with the smallest little crossfade, we're not going to get a click and a pop, but we're also not going to get like this like weird silence. We could probably even make it a little bit bigger. And that works. So now what I'm going to do is, now that I've made sure that this seamlessly transitions, I'm just going to drag this over and I'll export one at a time. There's probably a way in Cubase to set your markers and do an export, but I've never really cared to learn that until now. So what I'm going to do is I would just go in and I would export Did I Wake Up in Heaven or Hell? So basically bar 0 to bar 31. And then once that exports, then I will do the same thing with Montclair. So basically bar 0 to bar... We're going to go like just past bar, or just before bar 61. We'll do a little fade there so it doesn't cause any kind of clicks or pops. We would also want to fade this intro. So we have little crossfades pretty much everywhere, just because like you don't want it to have audible clicks and pops, but it can't be too big or you're going to have a weird white space and then it's not going to be seamless. And just to kind of recap all of this, I would either open up the session for the song that you're going to create the seamless outro for, or open the session that you're going to create the seamless intro for, whichever way you want to do it, whichever way you and the artist think it's going to flow best. And then what I would do is I would just drag in the master for the other song. So let's say you're transitioning a song 5 into a song 6. Let's say you open up the session for song 5. I would just drag in the master for song 6. And then I would go ahead and just add on any of those like carryover effects. So like this one had like a big synth reverb throw and a big vocal throw. Add all those in and then export that as one big long mastered project. So maybe like a 7-8 minute song. Just make sure that what you don't do is make sure that you don't have like your song 6 master routed to that same kind of overarching master bus that the first session's going into. Like when I dragged in the Montclair master, it was not hitting the actual master bus automation, which is where I had all of the individual tracks going, because I want them to match, but I don't need to double master the second song. And then once you export that as one long thing, then you can drag it into your session. Hell, you could do this with an entire album and make your own little hit points and cut your songs, drag them, and then just export them. But it takes a little bit of time. It's not super, super complicated. Again, there's like a million workflows you could do. That's just how I like to do seamless transitions of take a song, take another project, figure out what elements are going to carry over, what elements are going to transition, print the whole thing as one thing, drag it into its new session, create that split marker, and then export song 1, export song 2, and then I'm done. Now, when I go into Spotify, you're still going to have that kind of seamless transition. So it'll come out like this. And that's how I like to create my seamless transitions on albums or EPs. If you like this video and if you found it helpful, please make sure that you like the video and subscribe to our channel. Comment what videos you want to see in the near future down below, or comment if you've done any crazy transitions yourself on an album or on an EP. Other than that, my name's Austin. Again, if you want to support this channel, head over to makepopmusic.com. We have free content over there, sample packs, preset packs, MIDI packs. We have an insane course, so head over and check all that out. But that's going to do it for this week's video. We'll be back next week with more content. And until then, everybody, much love. Peace.